You think that there are other considerations.
Okay, but you can't just simply compare properties and see if they line up to determine referent, as I've already shown you. The one inch height difference. Yeah, I know you didn't say. I don't think you did because I think you're following. My point is that the 1 inch difference, how we view your height, doesn't mean we're thinking of two different people. So it's similar.
In virtue of what are they? Are they different? If not in virtue of property.
Yeah, I mean, this is a heavy burden in terms of philosophy that I lay upon Neb because he's taken up the mantle to say, surely we do not worship the same God as the Muslims. So I leave it to him to explain why that's the case.
I thought you were taking that position.
No. Once again, like I said, I'm not going to defend that we do worship the same God as the Muslims. What I am going to defend is that what Lumen Gentium 16 or whichever section we're debating this time is possibly true. Neb's saying that is not the case. So, Neb, it's on you.
As if I've got such a fucking burden by some little Catholic who keeps repeating what now.
Dude, calm down.
Why are you
so aggressive with me, man?
What's the absurdity in thinking that there's two different individuals there?
Okay, so Jason, the problem is because when you start thinking that individual properties or even groups of properties can show a different referent in and of themselves, you have absurdities like what we described before. If I think you're 6 foot, Neb thinks you're 6'1", obviously we're not thinking of different people, even though we have one of us, at least one of us, has a false.
How is that not question begging?
What question is the hypothetical?
You said obviously we're not thinking about different people.
Oh my gosh!
How is that not question begging?
So Jason, if me and Neb saw you walking down the street, and I think you're 6 foot, he thinks you're 6'1", do you think we're thinking of two different people when we're looking at you?
Well, that's going to depend on what it is that you think in virtue of two people are to be different, right?
Jason, the sophistry is, I'm drowning, brother. We're looking at you, like we're literally standing right next to you.
Yeah, so what's the answer to that question?
Well, clearly, we're looking at one person. One of us is just mistaken.
I'll repeat the question since you don't seem to have gotten
it. Well, I just told you what the answer is.
My question is, right, if people are not individuated on the basis of properties, what is it then?
Well, it's based on what they are in substance, right? Yes.
Yeah, so tell me what that is. Substance.
I'm sorry. Wait, you want to know what a substance is?
Yeah, tell me what a substance is.
Yeah, the underlying existence of a being in reality, right? It's the extant essence, substance, whatever Aristotelian term you want to use, rather than its accidental
by that, do you mean a bare particular?
Jason, yeah, if you want to use that, I mean that's a much newer term.
Okay, so let's talk about.
When it comes to Jack, I don't want to really argue with him. I just want to beat him up for his lunch money and call him a dirty dude.
Yeah. So for bare particulars,
Jason, let's go back to the hypothetical before we move forward. Jason, we're moving too far from the hypothetical, brother. You're seeing double. You're not even drunk yet. Jason, brother.
Why is it that you're over talking me?
Because I just want to talk about the hypothetical before we move on. Let's just talk about the hypothetical before we move on. Do you think that we're...
No, I'm trying to understand what a bare particular is.
Okay, well, you can look it up in your own time. All right, Jason. So, would you agree that when Neb and I see you and we're standing next to you on the street, even though one of us is incorrect about your height, we're both looking and talking about the same person, correct?
It's not relevant to my question.
Jason, no, it's not. It's not about relevance to you or your question. It's about what I want to say and what I want to ask you. So you can either ask a question. I'm sorry. You can either answer the question, or I'm just going to move on back to talking to my friend.
All right. Well, let me just. I'll just speak to other people.
Okay. Have fun.
No, that was a topic on the table. You're abandoning it. You're avoiding it.
Jason, when you want to tell me whether you're seeing double or single, you let me know. We can go back to it. Neb, take it away.
Yeah.
Or John.
He wants to play the skeptic one day. He wants to not play the skeptic the other day. He wants to blow up one day, be nice the next day. We're basically dealing with a schizophrenic 50-year-old Jew.
Thank you, B3.
Dang, you're talking about shells.
Well, like, even if y'all are both wrong about the height, y'all are still looking at the same person, Right.
Obviously, yeah. We have wrong. One of us has a wrong sense at least.
He refused to affirm that. He refused to affirm that on multiple occasions. Right now.
So I don't know if Jason heard your explanation about the sense and reference distinction. Would you want to repeat it for him?
Sure. And Jason, I will say I'm sorry for being on the mic. Like I said, I literally just woke up because nappy time, right? But essentially, how we view a thing and what it actually is might not always coincide. And so when we have multiple views of the exact same thing that are conflicting, but they're referring to the same thing, we have a conflict of sense and reference, right? So it would seem that we can have wrong senses about actual reference that other people have right senses about, right?
Are you just saying
Yes. So if you take away all the properties and all you have are bare particulars, given the indiscernibility of identicals and the identity of indiscernibles, isn't it going to follow that every bare particular is the same?
No, bare particulars aren't different simply by their properties. They're different even in substance, which bears the properties. Right now, how we would go about determining that, I think, is beyond the conversation. I just frankly don't know the answer to it. Right, but what I do want to, I mean, that's my answer, right? Like I don't know how we would determine between bare particulars without properties. So let's round back to my hypothetical because I answered your question. If we're both looking at you, feeling you, holding your hand, whatever, are we referring to two different people?
Yeah, so it sounds like if you're saying that you don't know how it's done.
Okay. That I played ball, I answered your question, and I gave an honest answer.
So are you comparing this to
Well, Jack is a sovereign citizen. He doesn't like to answer questions. He likes to just ask.
Friend and you know him, you've known him for a while, and then you have another person who is also your friend, but he doesn't know your best friend like you do. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I'm not making the one-to-one comparison to the conversation with that. I'm just trying to illustrate the principle of the sense reference with error provided.
In Vatican II.
So-called Vatican, so-called II, so-called sects.
What about these objects? Like artists will create an object where if you look at it from one angle, and then from the other angle, the object looks absolutely different. Like you wouldn't know it's the same object, but it is the same object. That's what you're looking at. So,
I'm back to the question, though.
Holy crow!
I don't do much begging.
I'm just throwing it on the table. If it's not interesting, then don't.
And just from like a purely historical point of view, like surely you can't say that Islam doesn't come up. It's the heresy of all Christian heresies. It's put right. So it would seem that they are in their own awful way aiming towards the same God that we worship, though missing it by miles. And obviously, it's a problem and may not merit them salvation because of that.
Well, I think most. If you don't mind, I'll make a brief comment, and I'll be quiet. Give me the blood, Eli. Give me the blood. Relax. So there really is the question that's absolutely essential here is what is essential to make a thing, right? What is it that makes a thing before it's not that same thing anymore? If you're sitting in a pew next to a fellow Catholic, and that fellow Catholic has a totally different concept of the Trinity, are you worshiping the same God? Like normally people would say,
how is he a Catholic if you have a different concept of the Trinity? What do you mean?
Because one guy could have a concept of the Trinity that's it's mysterious in the first place. It's a mystery of the religion, but one of them understands it in terms of
there's such a thing as implicit belief, right?
You cannot be a Catholic and have different concepts of the Trinity.
Well, we don't even have to use Catholic stuff. We could just go to regular secular stuff, right? There is a certain point at which a chair ceases to be a chair and it becomes a brick that you could sit on. In a certain way we decide through language and through consensus. I don't know exactly how. We decide the things that make a thing a chair. Essentially, it has a back. It's for one person. It's to sit on. That's the intention of it. A piece of rock that a little rock outcropping is not a chair. So but I mean, what are we going to do here? Are we going to become mereological nihilists? Are we going to become total nominalists? No, we're going to keep our essentialism, but we're going to say that like we can't exactly identify the essence. Like it's a little bit hazy.
No, you're missing it. Nobody said that an essence can't change. Water can change its essence to become
Never
vapor.
said anything about change. We're talking about a static situation.
Yeah, you're talking about a chair becoming a rock. That's a change.
No, we're not talking about something changing. We're saying if you find a rock and sit on it, is it a chair? No, it wasn't designed as a chair. It doesn't have a back. It doesn't have arms. Like, is something a chair if it's a stool? Like, we have to come up with a certain. It's sort of like the semantic range of words, right? Of language. Like, you have to come up with a sort of a semantic range of essence. Like, it doesn't have to be perfectly defined before you throw out the baby with the bathwater and say we can't use essences and we have to all become nominalists or mereological nihilists or what have you.
Okay, so if you're still talking about the Islamic God, can I say something?
Sure.
If we're still on this topic. So if now I say I believe that the Father is God only, and I worship Him only, and Christ isn't God, and the Holy Spirit isn't God, am I worshiping the same God as Am I worshiping the same God as you?
Well, certainly you'd be in error as to how you're worshiping God if you're worshiping God. Whether or not you are truly worshiping God, like I would have no possible supernatural knowledge of the referent you have in your mind and then your capability to shoot towards it, right? So unless we had something such as like Lumen Gentium 16 to read your mind, I would have no way of knowing. All I would know is that you're a heretic at the minimum, right?
Right, so I wanted to ask about it, like, what is your theory of reference? Because I thought you were talking about some causal theory of reference.
No, because
but
like,
later you said that your theory involves something like
let's restart. Let's restart from the beginning.
Can we not E3? Can I just ask my question?
No, let's just restart from the beginning here. We're talking about the Muslims, Christians, Jews worship the same God, right? So, no, relax yourself.
That's my question.
Hold on. I'll be done very quickly. I'm very quick on the microphone. I'm just trying to reorient things. Like, is the fact that you, a Jew and a Muslim, or a Christian, a Jew and a Muslim, are all looking at a Christian, a Jew and a Muslim, all looking at the same being of greatness. They have a broad common definition. They're all worshiping it, but they have differences of attitude. The word worship in the sentence means the same thing. The reference is the same thing. How much range of misunderstanding is allowed before you say they worship a different God?
Okay, so that would be 3 saved the conversation. The other guy who was talking about his theory of reference, can you explain what it is? It's like, I thought you were talking about some causal theory of reference. And it seems like you're not. It seems like you're talking about something like the essence of the thing or whatever.
Yeah, that's what a reference is. Yep.
So what is it?
Well, you just said something, and I said, yeah, that's what a reference is. Essence, right? We're referring to the substantial being of that thing rather than its accidental properties or how it emanates in the world, right? How it actually is on a most metaphysical and fundamental level.
So I don't know everything about essence is the concept.
In this case, everyone
who... the essence is the essential properties of the thing, the non-accidental properties.
Well, essential in what respect? Like essential in that it must have those properties, else it not be that thing. Well, if you define those properties to be essential in that way, then yes, it would be.
But I'm asking you because I don't really believe in this stuff, so.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get from you what an essence would be.
Well, I've already laid out what I believe. I just hold to the classical Aristotelian essence, right?
Yeah, so essence is like what a thing is without its accidents. Is that the idea?
That'd be the. Yeah.
See, I would describe it most. If you give me 20 seconds, I would describe it as
I got my head out, so good.
Yeah, this is where epistemology joins with ontology, right? Where you can still say this thing is what it is, even if you toggle or change lots of its properties, it's still the same kind of thing. So you have to believe in kinds of things. You have to believe in essentialism. You have to believe in categories. Like you have to believe that there are things that are like plants. Like, how much can you change about plants before they cease to be plants? If you don't have any limit
Chadwick,
to that,
you're on camera.
Well, I didn't mean to be on cam. I'm sure I look quite, what would you call it? Haggard, yeah. Probably look quite haggard. I'll get off cam. It's too easy. It's way too easy to hit that button. I didn't even know you could in this room.
Yeah, that's true.
No, well, yeah. Oh, because it's my room. Yeah, I don't really care. And I'm probably going to be dead in 2 months. But like there are a certain number of things you could toggle before a thing ceases to be what it is. Like if you start changing all the properties of a plant or the qualities or the nature of a plant until it's an animal, then it ain't a plant. But there's got to be some border there, and I think epistemologically in our minds we know where that is, even if we don't know exactly where it is. We don't have to be able to name a million features down to the atomic level where we know where it is, right? We just kind of know in a vague way, and so I think ontology and epistemology sort of mesh together at a certain point where you can kind of know when a thing is still the sort of thing it is, like a rock or a chair. And I don't know why. I feel like the analytic philosophers want to make a huge kerfuffle about these things that are not that hard to understand.
You can intuitively grasp that this thing is different than that thing, and they have two different essence. You can intuitively grasp that, understand that. But when you try to describe it, it's much more difficult.
What's an essence?
What a thing is.
Essence is that what makes the thing, what makes a human being, for example.
I don't know what that means.
No.
What?
It's just gonna be like the semantic convention or something?
You need attributes in order to have essence.
No, attributes flow from the essence.
Attributes are more like proper accidents. So like it's a thing that exists in an essence that would necessarily flow from it. So like like a proper accident would be like a sense of humor in a human being. It necessarily flows from being a rational animal. That's just an example.
What are you talking about? People that don't have a sense of humor. Are they not human? I just don't understand what the fuck.
That's an accidental property. It's like the color of your skin. It's an accidental property. Yeah, it's not in your essence to be white or to be black. That's an accidental property that you have because you're matter. Because you are in the world, you are made of matter.
Wait, but are you describing it as a human?
Hey, what's up, Bart?
It's irrelevant. You're white or black. It's irrelevant. That's just an accident. Accidental.
That is irrelevant to being human, but it's not irrelevant to being white or black. Like you can also have sublayers of other essences, right? Like there's a white group of people who are quote unquote white or black.
What the fuck is that?
Very hard to draw that line. Very hard to draw that line, but you can draw
something has a given essence. What does it do for us? This sounds like you're talking about properties.
This is the nature of abstract thinking. This is how we navigate the world.
He's got a point. You need properties.
No, I'm asking what's the explanatory power. I'm not asking why you're having the conversation.
Say it again. The question.
Well, I'm not asking about why you're having the conversation. I understand you're trying to engage in abstract thinking. Just saying, I don't understand like what it helps us explain in any way.
Well, it doesn't. It's just a description of the way we think. Like we categorize things, and we do that by having sort of an intuitive sense of what things are essential to that thing and what aren't. And it's very difficult to actually describe in perfect detail what they are, but we have a certain sense of it. It's sort of a sense.
Yeah, so isn't like the essence talk just about our psychology?
So let me give you an example. Let me give you an example.
I know the examples. I'm just asking you a question.
Let me give you.
Can you answer my question, buddy?
Yeah, go ahead and re-ask it. I'm sorry.
Okay. So my question is, aren't we just talking about like linguistic conventions and our psychology when we talk about essences?
I think it actually does refer to reality because reality is discontinuous. It's not like fluid. It's not continuous in some sort of jumble or flux, right? At least as we see it. You might hold the view that the way we see it isn't how it is. Maybe our minds have artificially constructed these things. That's what Nietzsche thought. But like the example I wanted to give, and it'll only take 5 or 15 seconds. I'm standing out here right now, smoking a cigarette, looking around, and I see chairs, and I know which things are chairs and which aren't chairs. And I can't tell you down to the most fine-grained detail why they're chairs, but they're chairs.
So that's just a statement about your psychology.
So you don't think these? Well, obviously, if there were no people, I mean, first of all, these things that I call chairs were made to be chairs, so there's certainly an objective quality there. They were intended to be chairs.
What kind of essence does this chair have? Is it like an exterior chair, plastic, fold up? What's the essence of a chair?
So the first thing in my view is 5 different folding chairs that are made of canvas. One of them's blue, 4 of them are tan, and then there's a little one that's made of plastic that's yellow. And then when I scan over the horizon and see other people's houses here in this co-op complex, I see other chairs. They're all different. But I can easily pick out which of them are chairs, and I'm not going to confuse that with a tree.
Wait a second, but each chair has its own essence, or that?
No. The idea of an essence is that the idea of an essence, or the idea of a substance, is that there are certain qualities about a thing that beyond that range, or beyond, if you change it too much, it no longer is the thing that. Like if I were to cut the back off and the arms off, and it no longer sits up, then it's not a chair anymore. So I can tell you a certain amount about what a chair is. Like I can't necessarily tell you everything. I don't know why this is a huge controversy.
Are you withholding information from us, B3?
What's that?
We want to know what a chair is. Why are you not telling us?
Because you're asking for something impossible. You're asking for something down to the finest grain of detail. Maybe if I spend 2 years, I could figure out exactly what a chair is, but I don't care to do that. It's just a useful way to
Doesn't sound like you care about the conversation as much, B3.
No, I'm trying to put you on track. I don't know why this is something atheists love to do.
I know.
What is a chair?
Yeah, they keep
going on. The chair stuff in the convo. There was like an exchange between.
Asking the most
you know what a fucking chair is? Come on, man.
Yeah, but I didn't even bring that up. That was like an exchange between 2 Christians.
What is a chair to you?
About the theory of reference. You're the one who brought the chairs into it.
What is a chair to you, Eli?
It's his definition of the essence of the chair. It's the definition of the chair. The chair is an object that you can sit on comfortably to study or to do something. You can sit on. So
the Iron Throne was not comfortable, but it was still a chair in a certain sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. From that essence, an object that you sit on flows many different chairs. A chair with 3 legs, a chair with 4 legs, a rock. All these things that you can sit on have the essence of an object that you can sit on, and that's it.
But you might also want to add in like it was designed for that. Deliberately designed for that purpose. Modified.
Yeah. You can actually joke about that. You can when you see somebody sitting on a rock, you can joke and say, "Oh, is that your chair that you're sitting on?" Right. You're not saying something absurd. You're saying something.
Like the least funny joke I've ever heard. I'd kill myself if somebody said that to me.
It's an example. What you're saying there, you're saying the rock has the essence of the chair, but it doesn't have the look or the properties of accidental properties of the chair.
Yeah, if you want to broaden the definition or the identity or the essence of the chair to include anything you sit on, you can. But like you can make it more tight. You could say
what would you call that? What would you call that?
Well, for example, we have things called stools. They don't have a back. They don't have arms. Like, are they chairs? Like,
so it's missing an attribute. You're saying it's missing an attribute, and the essence changes?
Well, no, it's largely up to us how we want to tightly define certain things. You have subcategories. The whole point is we have categories of things because nature is discontinuous. It's not just a flowing. It's not like you just look out on reality and see this mess of continuum. Like you see particulars.
Stool is a chair in Danish, and it has a back.
Well, if I were to give my best shot at it, I'd say a chair is anything that's designed to sit on that has a back, And anything that's designed to sit on that has a back. Like that's the best shot I could throw at it.
With a back.
Why are we discussing chairs, by the way?
Well, because we're trying.
What about like a rock?
If you want to know a history of this conversation, we were trying to explain. We were trying to ask the question: do Christians and Jews and Muslims worship the same God? And if they have different ideas of the God, does that mean it's no longer the same referent? And so Mosen brought up the idea that, like, if you're looking at a guy on the street, let's say 2 people are 5 feet away from another person, and you're both looking at the very same person, and one person thinks he's 6'1", and one person thinks he's 6'1.5", it's still the same referent. Even though you have a difference, have an accidental property that you're wrong about epistemologically, like where does it become a different thing? Like
I believe
this is how we got onto essences and chairs and stuff, but we can go back to the original topic as well.
Oh, yeah, that is interesting.
No, it's interesting actually. I like the debate. I'm just listening.
I don't know if we could solve this stuff. Like this may be beyond our ability to solve down
today.
To the final.
Let's go. Me and you.
Oh my god, this guy doesn't stop.
Well, what's wrong with my definition? An object that's deliberately designed to sit on and it has a back.
But it doesn't matter.
What about like a rock with a back to it?
A rock is not deliberately designed unless you've modified it and sculpted at it. Now, if you have a rock,
in your view, it is designed.
But if you have a rock, if somebody found a rock and then carved the seat and left the back, then I would say that's a chair.
No, but look, on your view, God designed the rock.
What?
No, I mean, I didn't mean
rock.
I'm not saying created it ex nihilo. I'm saying like shaped it into a form to sit on. Anything that's shaped into a form to sit on individually that has a back is a chair. Now, if you have a better definition, proffer it. If you have a problem with the definition, tell me the problem.
I'm telling you the problem.
What is the problem?
It sounds like on your view, a rock with a back to it, it's gonna be a chair.
Yeah,
well, not if it's not part of my definition that you had to shape it. Like if you just come across a rock in the wilderness that happens to be looking like a chair, say it's not a chair because it lacks the essential property of being made for that purpose.
Right, but you gotta make it for that purpose.
Yes. Because if I'm sitting by the lake, listen.
Be erosion or something.
If I'm sitting by the lake and I'm fishing or doing whatever, and I happen to see this rock against another rock, and I would think it'd be a chair, I would sit on it. Why wouldn't I say it's God? God made the chair.
Well, I would say it's not obviously. Hey, look. So
God made the chair for you.
Let's be clear here. Yeah. So if God deliberately made that thing to be a chair, then it's a chair, and that would fit in the definition I gave. It was deliberately made to be a chair.
Do you think God just like fucking slipped on like that rock kind of looks like a chair, and I forgot that people are gonna sit on it in the future?
It's kind of weird that he describes this like contradictory God.
A very clear definition.
Thinks he found like some paradox to explain why it doesn't exist. Doesn't make any sense.
Look, I gave a very clear definition. If any intelligence in reality, God or people or anything, I don't care if it's a dog, if they deliberately sculpted an object to have a back and a seat that a man can sit in, it's a chair. Now, I think that's a decent definition of a chair. You change everything else, the material, the color, anything else you could change, it's still a chair. Now you're saying, what if you come across a chair in the wild? Like, well, if God did not intend it as a chair, then it's not a chair. If he did, then
what do you mean God didn't intend it as a chair? Like, God knows what happens, right? God set up all the natural processes in such a way that this thing will end up in a chair-like shape. And he knows people will sit on it in the future.
I don't want to engage for this. Is getting so convoluted.
So here's the thing, guys. Essence, the essence. Can I finish?
Oh, go ahead.
You're lagging. The essences don't change. They are fixed. The essence of a rock. The essence of a rock is to be a rock. The essence
Bart, you're fucking roboting. Stop talking.
Can you guys hear me? I'm talking to myself.
Yes, but Bart is trying to talk and we can't hear him. He doesn't realize. Bart, we can't hear you.
Now, Barry, what do you want to say?
Fucking thanks.
You're lagging, Bart.
No, Barry, I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, so yeah, every time you describe a God, it's always a contradictory God. So what is the God that you think? What do you think in your mind that would make it that it doesn't make sense? Like you never explain that. You always have a critique, but you're always describing something that never makes any sense.
Yes.
What?
So what's your counter argument?
Yeah, that's his argument. My counter argument is that's what he does.
Right. Yeah. So Sasha, you're giving critiques, but like, what's your response? Like, what's your counter argument?
Well, like if somebody's proposing a theory, I'm giving a critique of that theory.
Right.
I think that's the argument, right?
Right, but no, a critique is not necessarily the same thing as a counter argument. You realize that, right?
I don't know about necessarily, but there is going to be a lot of overlap. Like if I'm criticizing a theory, what I'm doing is maybe like taking some premises of the theory and setting them up with something else that we believe to be true, like lead to a contradiction.
So a critique is when you check an argument's validity, soundness, strength, ambiguity of terms, whatnot, etc. And then your counter argument is your argument that responds to the whole of your opponent in order to lead that person to a different conclusion. So now, do you understand?
How is
so like all you're
how
doing?
How is it gonna be different to provide a critique of soundness? Then so I'm asking about what you said. How is it gonna be different to provide a critique of soundness of the argument?
No.
To providing a counter argument.
Your argument is that God created a chair in the wild that we happen to find to sit on, right? And you're saying, oh, that can't happen. Well, I'm saying to you that it can, and I hold a position.
I can defend.
Answer from you. What is your?
This stuff is not that complicated. It's not. It's not as complicated as you're making it.
What's your position to defend?
I gave a very simple definition.
Really guys. Come on.
I gave a very simple definition of a chair. Now you might not like it, you might disagree with it, you might like it, or you might add things to it, or make it.
He doesn't have an argument, B3. He's just
I will repeat again the definition of a fucking chair. The essential properties of a chair that cannot be otherwise altered, where it ceases to be a chair, and everything else can be altered. That's the idea of an essence. The things that cannot be changed without it losing its essence as a chair. And everything else can be changed. Its color, its material. So here's the definition of the fucking chair. Something that you sit on in an elevated way with your knees bent in some sort of angle, like, normal, like you're not flat on the ground. Hello, I'm not finished. So you're sitting on the thing. It has a back, and its purpose, its intended purpose, whether by man or God, was that you sit on it. That's a chair. Now, if you don't like that definition, you can fight it all day long. You change it. You could say, no, a stool is also a chair. You want to expand it? You want to shrink the definition? Go ahead. But there's nothing confusing here. Like, if you come across a random object in nature that just was formed and God had no intention that it be a chair, then it's not a fucking chair, according to the definition I gave.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but so what is your response to defending your
between
claim
a counter argument
God
and a critique that targets the soundness
can't create
of the
a
theory?
chair in the wild for you? What is your argument for that? Because I could defend.
Django, are you still there?
Yes.
So what's the difference between
he doesn't want to hear?
A
He doesn't want to
argument
talk to me now.
and a critique that targets the validity of the theory?
Okay, so the difference is, so I'm a seminarian. I just learned this in my logic class. So a critique is when you check the validity of the argument. So do the premises necessarily follow, or like when it comes to a definition, you check for the ambiguity of terms, whether it's coextensive or whatnot. So in a critique, that's what you do. You try and pick it apart. So, for example, let's say I made a spaghetti, and you say, I'm going to critique this guy's spaghetti. What you're going to say is, this spaghetti is bad because 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So like you're critiquing, right? You know, you're throwing rocks at the argument. You're trying to show where it falls apart, you know. But and so that's a critique. A counter argument is when you respond to the whole of a person's argument as it is, or respond to a definition, and then try to lead that person to a different conclusion, or to try and give a better definition. What you're doing is you're just giving a critique, which is fine, but what we're asking is, what is the counter argument following from that?
I don't know why I would need to provide that, but I'm not even sure what you mean. It's like, can you give an example of a counter argument?
Like, are you literally just trolling us? Like, are you wasting our time on purpose?
Thank you.
I think that's
can
what
you
he
just
does.
provide an example? Because you provided the example of the
this is what it is.
critique, so I just wanted you to provide an example of counter argument.
Well, let's move off of. Can we get off of? Let's get off of our chairs, as you might say, and move to something different. So, like, I would say a human.
Like, just provide the example.
The traditional Aristotelian identity of a man or a person or a human. Oh, forget person. A person is broader. The traditional Aristotelian definition of personhood is to be a rational animal. So any rational animal is a person or a human. So do you have a problem with that definition? Does it have to have big ears? Does it have to be 6'2"? Do you not understand the idea of essence versus accident?
I just want to hear an example from John Gotti.
John Gotti?
What?
Yeah, so what's an example of a counter-argument?
Okay, so so when it comes to a chair, right? So
why are we still on chairs?
I'm saying, but you know he asked, so I'm gonna be.
He's just trolling, man.
Okay.
This guy, John.
These guys got nothing better to do than waste your time on purpose with stupid questions.
Can we move on to something more important than this?
Yeah.
What does it mean? What does it mean to be? What does it mean to be a human? What does it mean to be a man?
To ask you the question, and you're overtalking him.
We're not gonna indulge. Look, we've indulged your trolling for about 45 minutes. You're obviously just here to annoy people.
Just mute him, man.
Well, I just want to hear John Gotti's answer.
I'm not gonna mute him.
Bans you from his channel.
That's against the rules, Barth. You cannot do that.
No, I can absolutely mute him. It's my room. I'm muted from lots of rooms for nothing.
Okay.
Hold on, let me mute him from my.
I'm not going to because I don't like to, but I'm told to do it more often. But this, Martel, just stop fucking trolling us and wasting our time for no reason.
Okay, so John Gotti, are you gonna answer the question?
Nobody else wants me to. Just pick up a book. It's called Socratic Logic by Peter Kreeft. It's a great book. It's a textbook, and just read that book. But nobody else.
Yeah, I'll get you the PDF. Hold on, I'll get you the PDF.
This is the logic textbook that we used in my logic class in seminary this semester, and it's a great book.
I mean, I also had a logic course during my college.
Good.
And
so you should
I don't remember any of
the difference between a critique and a counter argument.
Not really.
Or maybe, like, what kind of logic class did you take? Did you take like a term logic class, like more that deals with like Aristotelian logic, or like what? What did you take?
I think we just started out with like zero-order logic, then moved on to first-order logic, and so on, right? And like predicate logic, set theory. But I don't know. I have like a quick question to you, right? I like asking this to people who talk about logic. Like, when is a material implication false?
What is your fucking question?
Oh, that was John Gotti. When is a material implication false?
The material. Define what you mean by a material implication.
Like in classical logic, the arrow sign. It's representing.
I don't want to know what the fucking sign is. I want to know what it means.
Oh, it's a translation from natural language to logic of the expression if then. So, like, if you want to
Okay,
say if
now,
he
so
and
if
you,
then, I'm going to keep that, and I'm going to keep that in the side of my head. So repeat the question now with that in my head.
Sorry, I'm back.
Okay,
I mean,
John Gotti. So the
people
question
come
was
in
to
here
you.
asking questions that nobody understands to try to show off. They
Okay,
don't
so
define what the
John
hell they
Gotti.
mean.
Oh my God, shut up. John Gotti. So the question to you was, when is the material implication false?
So when is an if-then false?
What?
When is a material implication false?
I'll tell you
Can you just
exactly
shut
when.
up for like 2 minutes?
No, I'll tell you exactly when an if-then is false. When the then doesn't follow the if.
Yeah.
That's
It's a very simple answer once you define what the fuck you're talking about. You're obviously trying to show off and annoy people.
No, that's not the right answer.
That's
Is
it denying the antecedent and affirming the consequent?
Yeah.
Or 400?
Pure
Do I get it?
What
Do I
is
get the
wrong?
points?
Do I have to get rid of this person?
That
Should I keep
question
them
was
or
to
get rid
someone
of
else.
them? Room vote, room vote, room vote. Yell, voice vote, voice vote. Keep him or get rid of him.
What would
Ban
what would
him.
be
Ban him.
what would
Ban
be
him.
the point
One.
in
I
bringing
can't
that
work
up?
on one. It sounds like just one vote. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Showing off, I
Oh,
guess.
because the other
Doesn't
guy was
matter.
saying that he
They like to
learned
use
something
jargon
really
and no-
interesting in a logic
Nobody
class.
understands.
And I was just making sure that we were talking about the same thing.
Martel,
Like,
if you want to
talking about
stay here,
logic.
you can't be this bad. Like you can't be this annoying.
I just think I just think you maybe have a different purpose in asking the question that you asked, but I mean, okay.
Nah, I'm genuine. Like, he was telling me that in his logic class he learned something they haven't really heard of. So, like, I was checking if he meant the same thing by, like, a logic class.
Yes, so there's different kinds of logic classes. So you have like logic that is kind of related to math in some way. And
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, right?
Okay, and then you have logic classes that are more centered around term logic. So like Aristotelian logic is an example of that. So I'm in seminary and I took a logic class that deals with term logic, that deals with Aristotelian logic. And this is what we learned in that class. Basic stuff about how to make a critique, the difference between a critique and a counter argument, you know.
Yes, I understand that.
Yes.
But, like, when I was asking the question, you weren't responding, like, and I asked it 5
How
times.
so?
I didn't respond.
How
You just
so?
don't know the answer.
How so?
Also-
How was I
also what?
not responding? And I forgot what I even said because I had to leave. Sorry.
No, I was asking the question about the material implication, right? And I asked like 5 times and you didn't respond. So, and like, then somebody else responded.
Material implication of what?
Look, if you
And did
if you know
and
logic,
did
you know what
somebody
I'm
else
asking.
answer you?
Yeah.
Okay, well then why are you asking me 5 times if someone else answered you? You're wasting time.
Well, I already explained why I asked. But then it's also kind of weird, like, if you don't know that, I don't know how you're gonna assess the validity of an argument.
Why don't you think I don't know? You
That reminds me of
failed to
being
answer.
that.
No, because look, you failed to answer when I asked
This is why.
I know that for 2
This is
reasons,
why.
right?
Shut up! Shut up!
I know
Shut
that
up!
for
This
2
is why.
reasons. You failed
Even
to
as
answer when I asked 5 times.
even as a Catholic, I still love Nietzsche because I can tell that this guy's motivation, his psychological motivation for doing this, he's basically just using whatever stupid shit he learned in logic class to grieve people and stuff. Like it's so obvious that there's deep psychological motivations for why people pretend to be moral or pretend to be intellectual, and you're just sitting here annoying everybody. Like now, nobody raised their voice up. Nobody raised their voice up and said throw you out. So you're welcome to be here. But like, I feel like you shouldn't be
You
here.
were asking people to vote or kicking me out.
John Gotti chimed in and told him to go read a textbook. So he was asking. So Sasha was asking, "Do you know that much about logic? You're telling me to go read a textbook." Throw him out. Throw him out. So if someone's going to chime in to say you shouldn't really talk about this. Here's a textbook you should go read. Throw him out. I think it's pretty reasonable to ask them if they're as familiar with the topic as they're putting it out there.
And then after I answered, and then after everyone else attempted to answer 5
Didn't
times,
answer.
and then after I tried to answer again, everyone was saying, okay, don't respond to this guy. And I'm like, okay, I agree, so let me point you
What was your
to a
answer?
good book.
Well, I'm pretty sure
Yeah, but
Sasha asked
some of us
what
are
kind of
some of
material
us
implications
some of
false,
us in these
and
rooms. Some of
D3
us in these
said
rooms are
when it doesn't fall out. and that's not really the answer.
Yeah, if you want to know when if then doesn't work, it's when the then doesn't.
Can you go back to theology now?
The actual answer is
the
already
point
given
is
by
that
Grimoire.
some of us in these rooms, some of us stop talking, hold off. So some of us in these rooms are engineers, some of us are psychologists, some of us are poets, finance guys. So of course we ask you, like when you come to us with these questions of like pure logic, like we don't always know the terms. We're not stupid. We can understand once you define them, and then once we answer them, you just move on to some other question to try to impress us or try to look cool.
It would be 3. When somebody tells me to read a logic textbook, am I justified in asking them a basic logic question? Because I think they're implying I don't know my stuff, right? I don't know my logic.
I never implied that. What are you talking about? I never assumed that.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people here, so obviously this is.
This guy is obviously very insecure. Any little thing bothers his ego.
Sasha, when I said that was not an insult, okay? That was not meant to degrade your intelligence at all. That was just a kind suggestion of me because it is a book that really, really helped me. Okay, that was not an insult at all. I'm not trying to ad hominem you. Okay.
There's also the fact that a lot of us don't even. We don't even. Martel. A lot of us don't even understand what the hell you're talking about if you don't define it. Like it's a two-way conversation. Right?
I did define it.
Yes, you did, but
Martel isn't saying anything.
You should not say the material change or whatever.
I accidentally just hang on. I accidentally just shut up. I accidentally just server muted somebody. I'm gonna look to see who. Why is he talking? I accidentally just server muted somebody. I'm gonna find who it is and unmute them. It was not on purpose. Whoever that is. Sorry.
A change in what?
I got it, B3. Don't worry.
But Grimoire, why would I ask about modus ponens instead of when a material implication is false? Like, why is it
a material what?
Nonsense. Material implication.
Okay.
Yeah, no one ever knows trying to insult me. Like, I think
nobody cares.
Trying to put
always has
knowledge of this into question.
No arguments.
Is that person unmuted? Because I feel bad if they're muted.
B3, could you tell me what? Yeah. Could you tell me what it means to be perfect, B3?
To be perfect?
Yeah.
To be God.
I'm perfect.
Yeah, but like, what does perfect mean?
Why wouldn't you think?
I would say according to my own view, Christ was perfect as a person, as a human.
Yeah, no, I know that he was perfect.